Jesse Divnich is Vice President of Electronic Entertainment Design and Research, a company that works closely with game developers. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. So Apple did make some announcements about its Game Center today, saying they now have 50 million users, pointing out that Microsoft Xbox has 30 million users, yet you think that Apple has fallen short in the gaming business. How so?
Well, I don't necessarily believe they've fallen short. Let's keep in mind Apple has come in a tremendous way. They have disrupted the market entirely, right? They've grown tremendously, and they they're engaged daily by more consumers than any other video game console. But that being said, I still think that there are some instances or areas that Apple needs to focus on. I think one of them primarily has to do with discovery. And when I talk about discovery, I mean that right now millions of consumers every day use their iPhones or iPads and Macs to watch movies, television, music, and play video games, but there's really no service or feature that connects them all together. To really put it in perspective, there's about 100 movies released every year, 100 different television shows, 10,000 different music, 100,000 of games. How am I as a consumer supposed to discover these applications?
That said, games like Angry Birds, for example, have been a huge hit. I mean, some of these games do succeed, and gamers make a lot of money.
Well, you bring up a very good point. Angry Birds is by far one of the most successful applications. I won't even say applications, video games of all times. But the problem is, for every one Angry Birds, there's literally thousands of other games that fail to even get noticed. And if you look at kind of how the App Store works right now, primarily about 80% of all video game sales that occur on the iPhone or iPad are from, we'll say, the top 50 games on the App Store. Well, the top 50 is nice, but keep in mind there's well over 50,000 games available in the market. How are these other games and developers supposed to get noticed on these devices?
How do game developers view the Apple Store? Are they hesitant to make things for Apple?
The smaller developers certainly love it. Apple has a very great and open structure for a lot of the smaller to medium-sized development firms out there. The bigger publishers, on the other hand, are kind of tiptoeing their way in. Certainly companies like Activision, Electronic Arts have made, especially Electronic Arts, have made a lot of headway into the mobile markets. They're integrating a lot of features that connect both the experience on the iPads and iPhones to the Xbox 360. But again, nobody's making a significant amount of money off this right now, especially the bigger publishers. For the smaller developers, yes, it's enough to put food on the table, but for a company like Electronic Arts, which continues to innovate and drive the majority of sales in this industry, they're not really seeing a significant amount of profit right now. So
what should Apple do to make this better, to get a bigger slice of the gaming market, and what are they doing?
They're doing everything correctly right now. We do have to look at the future. How do we take this huge, active, engaged install base and continue to drive awareness of different applications, not just games, but movies and music and television as well, through the iPad and iPhone? And I think that all comes through research and data, really. Apple spends far less on research than their competitors, which is great because it speaks to the innovation that Apple has. But I think Apple's at a point now where they do probably need to start spending a little bit more time on research and data management to really find out, to recommend, if anything, to consumers what they should be buying, what they should be watching. Not recommend them on a global basis, but on a personal basis. Be able to look at what television shows they're watching, what music they're listening to, what games they're playing, and recommend to them other applications that they might like.
What's the potential for Apple? How big could Apple become in the gaming business?
So that's a good question. Right now, in terms of video games, they are about 10% of the market. At least the mobile market is about 10% of what we would call video games. They can grow, and I think they're going to continue to grow. In terms of, where's the ceiling for Apple? I don't think anybody knows, and I don't think that's a question that can necessarily be answered right now. But I can certainly say that doubling the revenue within the mobile market is certainly a possibility over the next 5 years. And considering that Apple obviously has a controlling, majority share within this market, especially here in North America, I think it's fair to say that they can get a big slice of that pie.
All right, Jesse Divnich from the Electronic Entertainment Design and Research firm, thank you so much for joining us. Really interesting insights on Apple's role in the gaming